Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Can you believe it? It is feeling more and more like the weather is changing. The season is changing. I thought I saw Matt Leng Christmas shopping last weekend. That was the rumor. It is coming, folks. It is. We are very, very close to the IHSA state finals. We've got semis this weekend. And then, as I always say, Matt Lang, and you know as well as anyone, literally the fastest time of the year is the week after the semis and Thanksgiving and then the state finals, Matt. It's a crazy time of year, but it's a great time of year.
No, it's great. Hey, here we are. We're already in the semifinals, and it's just gonna. We got all these teams and all these coaches and all these players, and they're all trying to get to Thanksgiving weekend to have turkey on the turf, and it's just a wonderful time of the year. Like I said, before we know it, we're having turkey and mashed potatoes, and then we're going to be opening up presents. And this is a great time of the year. And I have shaved and I have changed out of my orange sweatshirt. So
you had to wash it, huh?
Yes, I did.
Good. Thank God for everyone, especially the people that live near you. You ready for our guest?
I'm ready. This is your deal, man, and I'm excited about this guy, and this is gonna be a lot of fun.
Now, okay, how did you do in your first year coaching?
In my first year coaching,
yeah,
as a head coach, well, I was pretty lucky. I was pretty fortunate. I was able to win a couple games right out of the gate, and then I was, I took a nothing and turned it into a something. That first year, we were 6-4, but it was not easy. It was not easy. It was very challenging and a lot of stress, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, this guy we're bringing in, Matt, his first year, he's in the semifinal. Not bad.
Exactly.
Not a bad start. Of course, we're talking about Chicago Christian head coach CJ Cesario joining us. And Coach, congratulations, man. First of all, thanks for coming on. I heard you were on your deathbed. I heard that, there was all kinds of stuff going on. You look great. You look healthy, and we're thrilled to have you aboard. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Tim, Coach Leng. Thank you so much, guys. It is an honor to be here. There's so much wisdom that's sitting on this podcast right now. Years and years of it. I'm just grateful to be here, and thank you for highlighting our community tonight. It's a big deal.
Let's just cut to the chase. Right now, me and Tim are very jealous of that hair that you have. I mean, let's just get right to it, man.
That might be the finest. That might be the finest head of cabbage in the entire semifinal round.
Yeah,
that's great. To bet on that.
There are friends and people that are gonna laugh so hard and dog me for that because you guys have said that. I've dealt with that for a while since growing it out.
Yeah, what a bubber, huh? Terrible, just terrible. Coach, congratulations.
Thank you.
Just amazing story. A program that, Matt, we talked to a lot of small school coaches, but we haven't talked to a lot of small school coaches in a major metropolitan area.
Sure.
That is a challenge in itself. So first of all, I love the story, CJ, of you finally taking this job. Sounded like Chicago Christian really had to work you for a while before you committed to being the head coach.
Yeah, I guess you've heard a couple of stories. It was actually an incredible blessing, great time in my life to get back to the Chicagoland area. I was gone for 15 years, went to the University of Minnesota, and then after my graduate degree and master's, I got right into teaching and coaching. I had an older cousin that became a huge mentor and male figure in my life that I did not have growing up. And he offered me a head strength and conditioning job down in the state of Georgia. And so for the past 10 years, I've been teaching and coaching in Georgia, and got married, had a kiddo, came to really grow my relationship with Jesus. Faith is obviously a huge part of my life. And my son was getting ready to turn about 6 years old. And I said, hey, I want him to be a Chicago kid, just like I am. So it was time to go home. And so his mom agreed that she would move back up if I could find a job. And so there was a great connection with Jordan Lynch through Jerry Kill. We had the same college coach for just a little bit. And it was incredible the way things worked out to be at Mount Carmel last season. So that's what actually brought me back to Chicago. I was there for one football season. It was the fastest, but honestly, gentlemen, the most beautiful 6 months in my life, to be able to experience the things that I did, being a part of 6410, as people know it.
Yeah.
It's a special place. The traditions, the people, the tough, gritty South Side young men that you get to love and care for every day. It was wonderful being a part of that place. And you're right. I did not think that my tenure was going to be that short at Mount Carmel. And I met a man named Mark Hamstra, who was the superintendent not that long at Chicago Christian Schools. And he went to school there. It's his home. It's his alma mater. And he was just coming back after leading another school for about 12 years. And he was there to help maximize its potential, to love for it, to care for it. And it was going in the right direction with a lot of people that really wanted to help that place out.
Yeah.
I met him, and after a couple conversations, he felt like I could really help the football program out, and I said no. And so it was a no from me, because it was hard for me to think in my heart that God would have me at a place like Mount Carmel for such a short time. I was falling in love with the people there. Obviously, it was incredible to be a part of another state championship run. All the things that you could think of a place like that. And I just love the impact that I was being able to make there. And so it was really tough for me. But after a few more conversations, praying and feeling like there was a lot of confirmation from God on it as well, I said yes to coming to Chicago Christian. And it's been an absolute whirlwind of almost a year now. It hasn't even been 1 year yet.
It's an amazing story. I mean, first of all, you might be one of a handful that have actually left and moved back to Illinois. So kudos on that.
Yeah.
Man,
That's a big thing. That's a big
Amen,
move,
guys.
man.
Listen, there's no place like Chicago. There is no people like Chicago, and there isn't a place that I want to spend fighting for the things that really matter to me in this world, which a lot of it is just around manhood and building authentic, strong, ambitious men. And I wanted to do that in the city of Chicago, where I'm from. I wanted my kid to be walking the same streets as me too, and be a Chicago Bears fan, even though it's tough.
We talked offline a little bit about the challenges of being a small religious school in a major metropolitan area. And I mean, just look at the schools you have surrounding you. You have Stagg, you have Andrew, Sandberg, all those programs.
Yeah.
Yet what I've always found, and I'm sure this may be part of the answer, with Chicago Christian and some of the other smaller schools that are faith-based, first of all, you have to have great alumni, which they do, and you have to have very active alumni, which I think they do.
Yeah.
What are the challenges? I mean, you knew this going in, so what are the challenges that face a Chicago Christian?
They have faced a lot for a while. I think what a lot of people would say about Chicago Christian is that they're a tight-knit community with incredible alumni and legacy of families, people that really care about that place. Every student is known and cared for there by its small, intimate nature. It is a good experience socially. It's a good experience academically and spiritually. When it comes to athletics, overall, there's been a lacking of excellence there. And so with our new superintendent, Mark Hamstra, and then bringing in, people like myself that have a passion for what sport can really do for people and what it means for our country and for our world, especially in the Chicagoland area, and especially what football can do for young men, I just felt like I wanted to maximize the potential of this place. But you are right. Numbers is the first place to start. When I said yes to the program at that point in time, I knew there were going to be 27 boys playing football at that point in time. That's what I knew. And I had just come from Mount Carmel, where over 200 boys.
Yeah. How many did you have on your sophomore team that year?
So I was able to lead the sophomore program last year, and we had over 50 boys on that team.
So
So and each level has their own coaching staff as well. So it's a college ran program. But so starting with numbers, and then just understanding the culture of the smaller community. It's very different. There was a little bit for me of just lacking a little bit of the gritty toughness that you hope to just find and feel walking the hallways. And so it's igniting and pulling that out of young men and inviting them to come to what we called MOG workouts, which was Men of Grit workouts 3 times a week, starting in January all the way through June, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings at 6 a.m., learning how to get up before the sun rises and be men. And so it started there. And then you look at facilities and finances and where things are allocated, and then seeing, like you said, the hotbed of other schools that are surrounding you and what matters to people and why they choose certain high schools over others. And you mentioned some of the public schools, but guys, 3 blocks from me is the beautiful indoor facility that Marist has. There's Brother Rice, there's kids from Mount Carmel, there's Marion Cat. I mean, there's everything. And so it is difficult. It is difficult to get skin in the game that way. And so hopefully having some success like we are now can really help some of those things.
Yeah. Matt, you got something?
Coach, I was just going to say, your journey sounds a little bit familiar with what I had to deal with. You know, one of my first coaching and teaching jobs is in Rockford, Illinois at Harlem High School.
Oh, yeah.
And I was a freshman coach, and I was in charge of 57 kids and 4 assistant coaches.
Yeah. And
then I went and made my journey, and then I started a pretty good football program in Fisher, Illinois, which is down here by Champaign. It's 1A.
Yep.
And the rest is kind of history. Started out with about 34 kids, and then eventually build it up.
Yep.
But my work ethic, my mindset, my ideas, my determination, everything, it came from about 4 or 5 guys, and I won't name drop those guys.
Yeah.
But you've mentioned some names. Well, one of them is in the semifinals. His name is Corey Welder at Monticello.
I can't believe it took you this long.
And he is an incredible man because he is a man of faith also. And hopefully someday you'll get to meet him, Coach.
I would love to.
Who are some of the people you've kind of mentioned?
Jordan
Jerry Gill,
Lynch.
you mentioned Coach Lynch.
Yeah.
You mentioned the superintendent. Who are some other guys that, kind of really molded you into the person that you've become in terms of coaching wise?
Yeah, I'm going to go all the way back to my Pop Warner football days, and I'm going to start with a guy named Coach Pete Panagakis. So my mother wanted me to have the greatest opportunities I possibly could with things that I loved, and I fell in love with football. So we bounced around the west side of Chicago a lot as a kid, but I made my way out to the northwest suburbs around like the later elementary, middle school years. And I played Pop Warner football for the Hoffman Estates Redhawks. And we had a great program there. And Pete Panagakis ran that program along with Mark Mueller. And they have been incredible with youth football around the Chicagoland area for decades. And so those men really poured into me. They showed me what manhood was supposed to look like. They showed me leadership. They showed me discipline. They showed me structured practices as a 10-year-old that are high school ran practices. I mean, they instilled a lot in me at a very young age. And so I then had Coach Chris Kirkpatrick when I went to St. Viator.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So I went to St. Viator High School. I graduated in 2008, and I was a part of a really good run of a couple years of Viator football. My junior year, we were absolutely incredible and got beat in a crazy game against Batavia in the second round. And I think we were good enough to potentially go to state that year where we would have met Normal Community, who was really good. And I played with a lot of Division I football players on that team. Dante Warren was my quarterback. Yeah.
Coach
was my running back, all those guys.
Dante at South Dakota, I think.
Dante at South Dakota. We met up again in college, and he came to Minnesota and beat us. And so that was a pretty incredible weekend for me. But those men, Coach Alan Rude, another incredible man who was a huge part of my life. He learned how to he pulled the fire out of me in a way that I just couldn't explain. There was always one more rep I could get because he was screaming in my face, and sometimes I needed that. So Jerry Kill and his staff were incredible at the University of Minnesota when I walked on and played for him. And then that family member that I had down in the Georgia area that took me in, he is like a father figure to me. His name is E.K. Slaughter. He's been coaching for about 30 years almost now down where great football is in the state of Georgia. And so I've been around some really good ones, guys.
You got to talk about this run you're on this year. I mean, you come in your first year. Yeah, obviously you inherited some players, which always helps.
Yep.
But I mean, just fill us in. What's the excitement level been?
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, everything truly starts and ends with the seniors that are in my program. I have 13 seniors. We've got 34 total players. 13 of them are seniors, and guys, almost all of them start, and almost all of them start and go both ways. So it is something to the magnitude of a toughness that I have never experienced before in my life, which is great because the motto for our year is TPW, which is tough people win. And they show me week in and week out what true toughness looks like when they take 120 plus snaps on both sides of the ball and they leave everything out on the field. They're incredible young men. They are high football IQ players. They are students of the game. They love watching film. And they just wanted to really be able to maximize this last year that they had together. And they felt like they had a good chance if we can get some pieces in place that just hadn't been in place before in the program. So God also blessed me with 6 new incredible men that came onto the coaching staff. There was one that was still a part of our coaching staff, our defensive coordinator, Sam Caldwell. But the rest of them, guys, all brand new. I had nobody but Sam back in March. And by May, God brought them all to me, and the way that it happened, who they are, how they all fit together, 24-year-olds up to 74-year-olds, everything in between, the energy, the wisdom, the passion. It's been a beautiful thing for us, guys.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
As far as some of those key names, Brock Sperling's a kid I've seen at camps. I've seen him a couple other ways. Just a really good player. Talk about him a little bit.
Yeah.
It sounds like you got a heck of a quarterback as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Truly, all 13 of our young men, hopefully if you get to see a little bit more of them, they're special. So Brock Sperling, absolutely incredible football player, but an even better young man. His heart is amazing. He loves deeply. He cares deeply. He is passionate about the things that he puts his mind to. He potentially is a little undersized for a defensive lineman if he was playing in some higher classifications. But yeah, he's an absolute stud. He is great. Christian Flutman has stepped into so much confidence this year. He is our quarterback and also set the interception record this year with 7 as a DB. Kenny Jager, our running back, was named the offensive player of the year for our entire conference. And he is getting ready to break the rushing touchdown record of our superintendent, Mark Hamstra, who was an incredible running back in the day for Chicago Christian. So there's a lot of great ones. Nico Griggs is a great, huge middle linebacker, 6'3", 230 pounds. I mean, there's some great guys out there. Ed Van Dellen, he's wonderful. Demo Griggs, the twin brother of Nico. I've got Caleb Vander working on the line. Chase Seitzma. It's just wonderful, guys. Jake Verstrati. I mean, I've got kids everywhere. Kerry Teague. I love them all.
Matt, something for Coach?
Coach, I was going to just say something. You talk about some of those sayings, and one of the sayings I had at Fisher when we were really doing well was I kind of stole this from Michigan State and Coach Izzo, and that was tough teams win championships.
Yeah.
And from my research and talking to people, let's just call it how it is. For down here, you've kind of beaten the who's who in coaching down in our neck of the woods, okay? Your team is pretty darn good if you're going to beat a Josh Roop team. Let's just call it how it is. I mean, you got to be tough to beat a Tri-Valley football team.
They are a great program.
Mark Dodd is an excellent football coach.
Yeah.
And so you guys have had some sort of recipe here. What is that recipe? I mean, what is your philosophy in football? Is it toughness? I'm going to run the ball. I'm going to pass the ball. We're going to rally on defense. You've done something because you got a good football team here. And right now you're on a journey. And this semifinal game you're going to have against this team you're playing, they're going to be pretty tough to beat. And you guys have stepped up to the plate and really delivered every time.
Well, thank you for that. I really do appreciate those compliments. The thing that I think is really behind it all, gentlemen, is the motive of why these young men play. They play for something way bigger than themselves. They really want to make sure they glorify God in all that they do. They play for each other as brothers. They understand what a special time this is for our community, and our community is absolutely lighting up, and people are coming together that haven't come together in years, in decades. We had a packed house at the quarterfinal, and it was beautiful to see all the people that were there. We had coaches that had been head coaches at the school there before. Mike Leneve, who was a longtime coach way back in the day for Chicago Christian. But these kids are playing for something bigger, guys. Like Coach Leng, I'm telling you, like their motives are right. Their hearts are right. And I have no me guys on this team. Like nobody cares about themselves. It is all about the greater good of getting the big job done.
And I've got to imagine, and from your experience as well, as you have a smaller group, you're a smaller school.
Yeah.
It's got to be easier to connect on that level where, if you're at a Mount Carmel, and again,
you're right.
Program, but, you've got what, 60, 70, 80 kids on the varsity, you get to know them, but I got to imagine it's just a much, much more intimate, different feel with this smaller group.
You're 100% right, Tim. That's very fair to say. Over 200 plus boys, even though you have 3 separate coaching staffs, it's a different world. It is. And so there's a lot of special time and a lot of special things that you get to do at a smaller school, ways that you can hang out more, even outside of just being at school. All the kids kind of live decently close to one another and whatnot. So sometimes there's just hangouts that happen at a coach's house or a kid's house. And we have incredible parents that want to do everything they possibly can to help and buy things to help out or extra food here and there.
Time out.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
We got to talk about food and team meals here, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Some good food. So talk to me, Coach.
You're in a really good food area where you're at. So there's some really good places you can eat from.
Let's go. Come on, bring it.
So we've gone and hung out at some good places, but I'm going to be honest with you. When it comes to our pregame meals on the day of the game, we eat 3 hours before game. I'm very regimented down to the minute precise, and we eat almost the same thing every time. I'm very militaristic in my approach to that. And so we actually partnered with Temple Fuel this year, and they have a great hot, fresh meal for us that's got your protein, your starch, your veggies, your fruit, your whatever. And it comes in a nice little heated box or whatever. But yeah, if you could ask the kids, we'd be going to Portillo's every single day.
Right.
That's what it is. Right.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's awesome. So again, as I told you when I was trying to set this up, I had to have you on because otherwise Luann Hahn would be mad at me. And that's just a lady, Coach. I don't want her mad at me at all.
No, the Hahn family is a clan. You don't want to mess with them.
Yeah, but that goes. I mean, Luann has been on my site she probably didn't want that known, but she's on my site for years and years. Just a great lady, great family, and obviously I got to know Alex. Covered him when he was at Chicago Christian, and covered him. Went on to North Central, had a nice career there, but. When I thought of you and thought of Chicago Christian, I thought, that's a perfect kind of alum that you want involved in this program and you want as a fan. And, those are the type of people that are going to help your program out now and down the road. It's just so important.
It is. You're right. And we have a ton of them. I've been blessed. I've got the dads that do the dad thing and the moms that do the mom thing, and they take care of the meals, and the dads paint the field, and the dads get the rollaway lights that you need, or the coach bus that maybe is a great addition to have. You don't even want it anyway, but it just shows up on campus one day. I mean, we have those types of people that are pouring into this place, and they make my job really easy.
Yeah. So fill us in on Farmington.
Yeah.
You've got
guys, you're right. Farmington is a really good football program, as my staff has sat and analyzed a lot of film with what we have, what's been given to us. Guys, they're good. They are a tough, sound, disciplined football team. You can tell the health of a football program actually when you look at their sideline. When I look at their sideline and I watch film, they've got over 55 boys on that football team. For a 2A program, that tells me they're very healthy. They are not going to make big mistakes. They are who they are. They are big up front in the trenches. They have good skill kids. They have a couple large targets on the perimeter. They're tough. They're gritty. I mean, they are who they are.
Coach, real quick,
yes.
what do you think of their quarterback, Lane Wheelwright?
Yeah, I think he's pretty special. He does a lot of things for that offense. In some of the games that I've seen, the weather conditions in the field has been a wreck, just a mud bowl in some of them. So maybe he doesn't look as elusive or as polished because of some of those things. But you can tell a quarterback when you see one. He's not average. He's not above average. He is a very good quarterback.
Awesome. Well, you've already set a school record this year, so it's all gravy now, right?
Coach, speaking of gravy, I just got to ask you. I mean, have you thought about you're on the verge of Thanksgiving weekend playing for a state championship in Normal, Illinois, at Illinois State University? I mean, when you think about that, and I think about, with Thanksgiving, football, friends, family, football, that is so important. How would you describe it? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything more beautiful than all those things coming together, especially at this time of year. To me, it's the best week of the entire year, every single year. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Christmas, but like, guys, this is it for me. Food, family, and football. Like, I mean,
This is our Christmas.
This is our
Christmas. This is it, guys. So it feels incredible to think about that, but obviously you try not to think ahead. But yes, it's a real thing. What I think about is how beautiful that can be for our community. That's what's been the most special about this entire ride up to this point, is seeing how special it's been for all the alum, the legacy people, the families, people coming together for one thing at one place with passion, with desire, with competitiveness. That's what it's all about.
Awesome. Coach, appreciate you so much taking time to join us. And again, just wish you the best of luck. Go get them on Saturday. And
we're going to do our best. It's going to be a tough back and forth. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm pretty sure this will not be the last time we talk to you. So we will definitely stay in touch.
Coach.
And,
thank you.
I will definitely stay in touch as well. You got my word on that, Coach.
Thank you, Jim. Coach Leng, thank you so much, fellas. I'm honored to be on here. Thank you so much.
You bet.
All right, Coach. We appreciate it. So we will let Coach go. And 1 second here. Let me get him out of here. And there, just booted him. I love that tool. It's awesome. It's awesome.
I better watch what I say. You're gonna do that to me next. So.
Yeah, hey, you're a click away. So
click away.
Glad we were able to get Coach CJ in, and again, just energetic young guy.
Very impressive.
Yeah. And again, it's an interesting story. Like I said, you truly are a little guy in a big forest, and they're in the Payless area, and it's a little school, and they got all these gigantic schools around them, both private and public, but they find a niche, and there's others as well that have gotten it done for years. And we talked about the alumni, and we talked about the support, and they're a school that has pretty consistently gotten good support. So hopefully he'll be able to make a run of it. But you saw he's a pretty legitimate guy there. There's no doubt. He's going to be a very, very good coach down the road.
Yeah, no, and I think they as we go in and talk about the 2A situation and scenario, I mean, they have done everything they've had to do, and they have earned the right to be in the semifinals.
Well, like you said, look at who they've beat to get there. Those are some really good programs.
Yeah, I mean, you go on to beat Josh Roop and try in Downs, Illinois, in the second round. That was a gritty game too, and that was kind of tough conditions. So I mean, they proved that they can do it all.
All right, we'll go through. Let's get to eight-man championship is Friday. So everybody got to remember the 8-man's a week ahead, if you will. So 8-man championship played Friday night down at Monmouth College, west of Peoria, right? Basically.
Mm-hmm.
So Monmouth College, the 8-man state final will be Amboy, who defeated Pawnee Met 52-8. Amboy absolutely rolling. They are in the state title game, and they will take on Milledgeville. Milledgeville, a 28-14 win over Polo. So, Matt, that is your 8-man championship game. I know, obviously, Amboy, very familiar to this path, and and just your thoughts on the 8-man final.
Hey, Amboy's going for their second straight state championship, and I think we should take notice of Milledgeville. You know, here's a team from the NUIC, and we keep talking about the NUIC. Their kids are just tougher. There's something going on in Milledgeville. I mean, they go down to Cambridge and they beat Coach Elder's team, and then Polo, kind of the perennial maybe favorite to be in the state championship, Coach Alston, they beat them 28-14. So Milledgeville, you know, from my scouting report, has a very, very, very good defense. And to slow Polo down to 14 points, they're going to have an opportunity. However, will Milledgeville have too much depth in those interior positions on that line? And just you know, Coach CJ just talked about that. The health of a program is what's on the sidelines. Yeah. And Milledgeville's going to bring down a boatload, or Amboy's going to bring down a boatload of people on the sidelines. They have a lot of depth. Will that outlast Milledgeville? I don't know. This could be a classic game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So that is the 8-man final. Again, congrats to both teams on Friday. Again, just wish everyone the best of luck in the 8-man football world for sure. Let's move on. Let's start with 1A, Matt. We will go over the results from the quarterfinals and set up the semifinal matchup. Everything on Saturday, by the way, 1A through 8A, all Saturday. So minus the 8-man championship game, which will be Friday. Everything else is Saturday. So again, in Class 1A, Leroy, they advanced. They beat Galena 37-21. They will take on Lena Winslow. Lena Winslow with a 40-7 win over Gibson City Melvin Sibley. They will take in the other semifinal game, Camp Point Central gets a 16-7 win over Calhoun. They will take on Belleville Altoff. Altoff with a 54-7 win over KZ Westfield, setting up Camp Point Central at Belleville Altoff Saturday, 2:00. And in the upper part of the semifinal in 1A, it is Lena Winslow at Leroy. Again, Matt, another Saturday 2:00 game. And just give us some thoughts on the semifinal in 1A.
I think we all thought all along that this was going to be the last Final Four teams in 1A. You know, talking to Coach Dixon at Camp Point Central, the bottom line is they have to make Belleville earn everything. You have polar opposites just in terms of maybe explosiveness and big play capability with Belleville versus kind of a grind it out, slow it down type of ball game with Camp Point. But, you know, by no stretch of imagination by saying Camp Point's slow, it's just that they're going to have to really rally to the ball. They've showed that they could do this last year. Yeah. I think Belleville is tougher this year, but man, tip your hat off to Brad. You know, they go in there, they earn that game at Hardin Calhoun, and now they get this opportunity. It's just going to be incredible. I will say this. I think this Leroy Lena Winslow game, I mean, I think this is the game. You could argue that this is the game of the year in high school football for a lot of classes. I mean, because what you have here is you have a program in Lena Winslow that has been there, done that. Over the last 15 years, they have been the talk of the talk and the walk of the walk in 1A football. And you talk to Coach Selesnik, I mean, this is 125 years of football. His son is the quarterback. They have 18 seniors, and he is very, very aware of what Lena brings to the table. Lena has a running back by the name of Alex, I think it's Schlitstein, and they have another kid by the name of Aiden Wild. He said they're absolutely credible. And their hip level on that offensive lineman. I talked to Colton Leak, the defense coordinator at Gibson City. He's like, Matt, I've never seen anything like it. He's like, it's the most physical, potent, powerful, blunt force trauma type of football you ever see. And, you know, like BJ was saying, you better get your seats there early because it's probably only going to last an hour and 15 minutes. Both teams are going to be running the ball, and I can't wait to be there and have a spot in the booth. It's going to be classic 1A football.
You know what's really strange about Lena this year, and I don't know, maybe it was just me, and maybe next week we'll bring in our guy from NUIC football, but what seemed kind of strange this year, was it me, or were there kind of a little bit more doubt about Lena during the season?
We talked about this briefly. I think
maybe they weren't the power that everyone have gotten used to. Well, I think they're proving all that wrong. But
well, it could be a variety of things. Number one, I think Galena and Stockton and some of those other teams
pretty
really
good.
fought them hard
Yeah.
in the regular season. I also will tell you this too, and I'm not trying to build Lena up into something, but I'm kind of trying to build Lena into something. They could have been doing this too, Tim. They could have been like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And you never know, because from what I'm hearing, they are a ferocious monster and they are ready to go. And it's going to be really interesting. I think also too, I really honestly believe that state championship game we had last year with them in Camp Point, for some reason, that just kind of felt different and it felt weird. And I think it kind of alluded into the year. And I think a lot of people have taken Lena for granted. And I think people forgot about him. And
it happens a lot.
It happens a lot.
Yep, it does. It really does. So, okay, that is the story in 1A. We'll move on to 2A. Here are the quarterfinal results. Farmington, as we mentioned, they will move on. They get a 42-7 win over Dwight. Chicago Christian, we just had CJ Cesario on. 34-13 win over Bismarck Henning Rossville Alvin. And again, that sets up the northern semifinal. In the south, Johnston City. Tell you what, Matt, that 1 seed continues the roll. They get a 28-13 win over Pana to advance. And then in arguably one of the best games in the quarterfinals, really in any class, Maroa Forsyth gets a 22-21 win over Quincy Notre Dame. And again, setting up the semifinals, Chicago Christian will be at Farmington Saturday at 2. Then we also will have Maroa Forsyth at Johnston City. That will be a Saturday at 3:30 kickoff, Matt. And I know you want to talk about that game in the southern part of 2A. An absolutely amazing game.
Well, Josh has been great to me, and I've learned now that if I send Josh an email, he will really send me a dissertation. And he was very, very clear, like, let's make no bones about this. You're going to have polar opposite teams. I'm not saying that Maroa Forsyth is flash and no substance, because they're a very physical team. They have great players. They have a tight end that's committed to the University of Illinois. But it's going to be about ball control in Johnson City. And can Maroa stop that? Can Maroa stop that? They win on the last second 2-point conversion against QND. They're flying high. But, they got to go down there. They got to go down south and take on a Johnson City team that maybe we've kind of forgotten about. And here's a team that lost to Dixon and maybe kind of woke them up a little bit and kind of got them ready for this moment. And I think whoever comes out of that south maybe is probably the favorite to win the state championship. But, we talk about the northern bracket. And I tell you right now, I talked to Toby today, and he just flat out told me, he's like, Matt, he's like, this team we're playing, they've got 3 or 4 athletes that are going to be very hard for us to handle. Yeah. And we're going to have to find a way to either bracket, have a guy here, have a guy there, whatever, or do something, because they don't have a lot of players, but they got very good players.
Yep.
And it's going to be a challenge. I think the Wheelwright kid is a dynamic, but man, you could have a really great atmosphere and a great game in that game at Farmington.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so we will go ahead and move on to Class 3A. 3A, again, some interesting ball games for sure. Montini, they advance. They get a 24-7 win over Princeton. Wilmington, another good game with Dupec. They get a 22-13 win over Dupec to advance. Maybe a big loss for Wilmington in that game. We'll talk about that in a moment. Down in the southern part of 3A, Tolono Unity. Boy, Matt, they continue to roll 47-24 over Nashville. I believe that game was in Nashville. So, again, that's a huge win. And then Monticello, your guy, Matt, our guy, gets a 27-26 win over the Benton Rangers to advance. So, again, the semifinal in 3A, Wilmington on the road at Montini, Saturday at 1 o'clock, and then Tolono Unity on the road at Monticello Saturday at 2 p.m. Matt, I was mentioning about a loss for Wilmington. I know that Kyle Farrell, their standout running back and linebacker, was injured on the first play of the game against Princeton. I'm sorry, not against Princeton, against Dupec. So again, just hope Kyle's okay. Hope he can make it back for the semifinal. But Matt, if he can't, that is a potentially big loss for Wilmington.
Well, you know, I talked again. I'm the luckiest guy in the world because I get to text, and these guys, I mean, I spit out these text messages and they get back to me, and I try to keep it really simple. What Jeff likes about his team is that they've really kind of come together. You know, they're a very tight group. They're very coachable. They can make changes during timeouts or on the sideline and kind of be Johnny on the spot. I think that's a sign of a really good team. I think that's a sign of a together team. You know more about Montini, but I can tell you this right now. For their dudes, for their guys at Wilmington, it is Farrell. I mean, he is the top guy. They have another running back by the name of Ryan Ketman.
And he's had a very good year.
And then the offensive lineman, Zach Olin, is very good. In terms of Montini, I mean, come on. Florio at wide receiver is dynamic. Israel Abrams at quarterback is just – he's a difference maker. And then John Hayes on the offensive defensive line.
The physicality that they bring to the table is different. And I mean, come on, this is a Montini defense that basically locked up Byron for 4 quarters. Yeah. That doesn't happen very often. So again, it's a tough matchup for Wilmington.
And I will just, and most everybody knows this, when you get into these Donnybrooks, you got to be able to have third and manageable situations. Yeah. As a running team like Wilmington. If they're in third and manageable, it's going to be a ball game that goes right down the wire.
If they're in third and manageable, I don't think Montini's getting the ball for about 9 minutes.
Yeah, and here's the deal. On the flip side of that, they've got to be able to slow down that big play capability.
Yep.
I mean, that's the ball game. On the flip side of that, you go down south. In our area, we have 2 schools that are 20 minutes away. And you have a coach in Scott Hamilton that has been to the state championship game several times and has come up second. And then you have Coley Welder, and he's a difference maker. I just want to get one more drink. I was getting thirsty, by the way, too. Monticello just came off a big win over Benton. They stopped Benton in overtime. They were up 14-2. And then Benton came back. Monticello stops them on a 2-point conversion. You know, Matt Schwartz, Coyle Williams, difference makers. But I think when it comes down to Monticello, I mean, Nolan Benny-Kemper, he is a defensive dominant football player. And then Carter Ferran is a wide receiver that just set the single season record for receiving this year. Ike Young is the quarterback. When I watch these 2 teams play later in the year, Monticello was just they were in a kind of a flunk. They were not playing very well that game. Ike did not have a great game. A lot of that had to do with the bookends that Scott had on defense, and then the quarterback for Talona Uni did a nice job. I think this game is going to go right down to the wire, and it just speaks volumes for the football communities. It's going to be a packed house at Monticello. They got a great facility.
Yeah.
And, you know, what can you say? I think this Final Four in 2A is really, you know, in 3A is really, really going to be nice.
Well, I was going to tell you, I might need you to give me the final score on that one, because a very proud Monticello grad will also be coaching on Saturday night at the game I'll be covering, which I'll be at Lincoln Way East. And most people know Rob Zvone, our Monticello grad, lived down there, obviously, and always very, very up on what's going on in his old hometown. So
it's a great football atmosphere, and Tolona's going to bring a great football crowd. And, you know, we haven't really talked about it. You know, how much more longer is Scott Hamilton going to do this? Who knows? I mean, this could be it. Yeah. We don't know.
Yep.
Coach Welder has done a great job. You got 2 great coaches, 2 great programs. Steve Kirk does a great job on the defensive side of the ball for Monticello. It's going to be a fun game.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, and then moving on to 4A, again, Chicago DePaul Prep. This is an upset win here, Matt. They get a 26-14 win over St. Lawrence. Of course, the Vikings made it last year to the 4A state title game and lost. But, again, a lot of people pointed to St. Lawrence, and we're expecting them to move on, but DePaul having a great year knocks them off for the win. They will take on Coal City, another program, Matt, that, you know, always well respected, and the Kohlers generally perform well, but as you all know, kind of in the shadow of Wilmington for sure. But the Kohlers are definitely rolling. Big upset win, 20-13 over Dixon. So that sets up the Northern semifinal, and then in the South, boy, Mount Zion again really on a nice postseason run, 17-3 win over Breese Central. They will take on U High, a 31-12 win over Cahokia. So again, resetting your 4A semis, DePaul Prep at Coal City Saturday at 1. Then Mount Zion taking on Normal U High Saturday at 7. And of course, U High plays their games at Hancock Stadium. Matt, I'm telling you right now, that Mount Zion U High game is going to be a lot of fun. Now, I hope the weather cooperates, because let's face it, you look at the advanced forecast, which we're going to get into the timing thing in a moment, because I want to talk about that just a little bit. But that has the potential of being just an absolute shootout on Saturday night.
Yeah. You know, I kind of kicked myself that I didn't pick Mount Zion early when the brackets came out, because they have all the big players. They all have the big names. You know, I talked to Lance Tinsley, who's the defensive line coach for Normal U High. I coached against him when he was at Ridgeview, and I was at Fisher. And Lance does a great job. And he flat out said, you know, our kids are disciplined. They play hard. They play well. And we did enough to disrupt a Cahokia team that is the fastest team on turf. I mean, Cahokia had some players, and they had some speed. And Normal U High went down there and kind of
took care of it.
Yeah. Stymied that. The key to this game is going to be Trimble and the tight end for Mount Zion, and how Normal U High is going to kind of slow that down. Calvin Jones is a safety for Normal U High, along with Max Dameron. They're cornerbacks. Chinzo Kontoin, he's another player for Normal U High. And the bottom line is, I mean, this is going to come down to, I think, some one-on-one matchups, some one-on-one plays. And I think the weather could have an impact. And they're waiting all day. There's a 12 o'clock game Illinois State's playing. And, you know, you better be focused. You better be locked in, you know, and you can't let the excitement get to you too much. Mount Zion will bring a big, big, big crowd. And Normal U High, when they're good and they're sports, and believe me, I've coached there, they will have a great following. That'll be a great, great game.
Yeah.
We've talked about it. Normal U High is that team that could have a fairy tale ending here. I mean, it's right there, right in front of them.
And I will give props to Dave Bernhardt, a regular viewer of the podcast, who was the one that kind of early on in the season pointed out to me about U High and said, hey, keep an eye on this team. This team's pretty good. And he was right. He was right on U High from very beginning of the season. So
credit to both teams.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a neat atmosphere. I mean, it's the only one's kind of late at night, and I kind of like it, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
And then on the other side, the northern part of that 4A bracket, we've talked about DePaul Prep. I had a chance to see them live this year. Coach Cesario talked about looking at the sidelines to see how healthy a program is. Look at the sideline for DePaul Prep. They've got numbers. They've got talent. They've got a lot to offer. And I tell you what, Juju Rodriguez, their quarterback, he's a handful.
And tip your hat off to the whole athletic program at College of DePaul Prep, because they're just kicking butt in every sport. And I'll tell you, back to that Coal City, man, just come out of nowhere, and they just kind of like they're just the silent assassin right now.
But to be fair, they're a consistent winner. They've been a consistent winner going back decades,
absolutely.
Lenny Onson and even further back, they've been a consistent winner.
They won the state championship with Ken Miller back in the day.
Yeah, Ken Miller, absolute legend in Coal City. So it's it's a program that knows success, but it's just great to see them finally kind of break through and make a deep run here. And I'm not counting the Kohlers out of anything. They're going to run the ball 90% of the plus of the time, and they just want to muck it up. That's what they want to do. They want to play smash mouth football as well. And and they're inclined to do it. So we'll see how that one shakes out. But again, two really good games in 4A. One thing I want to bring, a couple of things we got to throw out before we sign off. Timing of the games. You being obviously a longtime coach, how involved did you get in that? And was that more of an AD's thing and let them figure it out, or did you get actively involved in that? And here's the question. Here's the thing I'm trying to get to.
I think when we've talked about this before. I think, when you start early in the playoffs, you want to go on that Friday night concept just to kind of keep things the same.
Right.
And then I think as you kind of move on, don't try to get too cute. If I had one thing I wanted to maybe do something different that I did at Fisher, and that we played a couple of Saturday night games, and I didn't really like that. We should have been more of a Saturday afternoon and, let the kids rest a little bit after that game. But I mean, try not to argue and fight, and just and if you have to, then let the ADs figure it out. But I think you can kind of come to a consensus on what you want to do, what's best for kids.
What I was surprised at when I saw the semifinal time comes out, first of all, it didn't surprise me that there were no Friday games. We just come to accept that now, that it's late in the year. It's late. So they don't want to play on Friday, but they all want to play on Saturday night, which if you're taking weather into account, why are you playing at 7:00 at night? I mean, it's not going to be good. It's going to be cold. And believe me, U-High isn't the only one. And U-High has a very good excuse. Their home field is being used during the day.
Yeah.
So that's it. It's Joliet Catholic is an example. It's the same kind of deal where if University St. Francis has a game, they're going to have to wind up playing a night game. Unfortunately for St. Francis, fortunately for JCA, they're 2:00 on Saturday, but a lot of night games on Saturday. That one really caught me by surprise, which as a fan and media, it's great because now I know I'm getting two games in on Saturday, but just interesting. The thought behind it.
If I had to do it all over again, I'd wanted my Saturday game to be at 1:32. I'd want to rest, get that done, get a win, then you can rest, sleep in on Sunday, and hit the film and hit the huddle hard and start talking and get ready for a week.
Yep. Anything else you got before we wrap?
No, I'm just really excited. I mean, I think these games are going to be great, and I can't wait to talk next week because whoever gets in these state championship games have earned it. I mean, I look at Coach CJ. I mean, he has earned that right to take on Coach Vallis at Farmington, and then just these 1A games, and then 3A, and I think 4A is kind of a fun thing to talk about. We got new blood in 4A.
Yeah,
I think that's exciting.
That we do. There's no doubt. I agree. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it. As I mentioned, I'll be doing two games.
4 quarters. Can I do that real quick?
Oh yeah. I'm sorry, Matt. Yeah, for sure. All right. So Matt Leng's world famous 4 quarters in overtime.
Yeah, all right. Thank you.
World famous.
Stop. I try to do something different this week. I think if I were to do this all over again, I'm going to start doing this a little bit more, because what I did is I just kind of put a survey out to some of the guys that I know and some of the coaches I could get a hold of. And I just talked to them. I asked them, I was like, question number 1, you take the Thanksgiving idea, Thanksgiving, food, friends, family, and football, and what does that mean to you? And when I sent that out to coaches, they said it's the greatest time of the year. For some coaches, like Coach Jostis down in Maroa, he's like, I've been very, very, very lucky and thankful that I've been able to practice 9 times on Thanksgiving Day. And that's kind of an amazing thing, And so for other people like BJ Zalesnik at Leroy, he's like, in the football communities, it's ingrained that you're going to practice and play in November, and that Thanksgiving is that ultimate treat. To be on the turf on that weekend is the ultimate treat. And so, but what it comes down to, it does come down to friends, family, togetherness, counting your blessings. All the coaches that return some sort of email or text message really echoed those thoughts.
Yeah, well said. No doubt about it.
And then the second one I asked, the second question, and I won't go into too much detail, but you'll like some of these answers that I got. I asked coaches, like, if you had a football player in the professional ranks or the college ranks that would exemplify who you stand for, what your program is built on, who would that be? And in two scenarios, in two situations, I got an answer that really is not a surprise to me, but it was really kind of just heartwarming. And that is, they acknowledged number 34, Walter Payton. And they said, you know, if we could have one guy that really stood for what we're about, it's about that work ethic. It's about that toughness, that resilient, and most important, that class, you know, and that professionalism. He's like, I hope, BJ Zalesnik and Josh Joseph both said that. I hope that is what people think about when they think of our programs. Coach Rentz at Wilmington, he talked about Mike Allstott, talked about Damian Anderson, you know, and it's just neat to kind of hear these names and who they kind of gravitate to. And I thought that was a lot of fun. That's something I want to do in the future.
Great. Third, you got more?
No, that's okay. It. I mean, I kept it pretty simple, you know, just I asked the coaches, I wanted to kind of go with that. And some of them shot back, and I just thought, you know, I mean, what can you say? I mean, it's neat that they acknowledge Walter Payton. And I can remember watching Mike Allstott play in a playoff game in Galesburg, you know, with short sleeves and socks on, and it was 2 foot of snow. And I was like, who in the blankety blank is this dude? You know, and the next thing you know, he goes to Purdue, and next thing you know, he's at Tampa Bay, and the rest is history. But I think everybody has their guy and who they kind of hang on to. And, you know, the players try to kind of copy what their coach is, and the coaches have an idea of what their philosophy is. And I just thought it was kind of fun to hear some of these names, you know, because growing up, I was a huge Walter Payton fan.
Yeah, I think we all were. Anyone of a certain age, you almost had to be. I mean, he meant so much. And again, what Payton, what it was always amazing was what he was able to accomplish in the teams that he played on. I mean, he played on some god awful teams. And to be fair, Barry Sanders obviously did as well. And just as equal of kudos as well, Barry Sanders in his career. But you know, Walter just got beat up for years and years and years, and what he was able to pull off career-wise was absolutely amazing. But anyway,
it was neat, you know, like Pat Etherington at Mount Zion talked about Bobby Wagner, you know, and Bobby Wagner, you know, got cut from the Seahawks, and now he's playing for the Commanders, and he's like, I would think that that would be somebody who would, you know, would look at that guy, and he's like, you know, we've overcome some obstacles, we've overcome some odds, you know, and we don't quit. You know, we're not quitters. We play hard. And so it's just neat. It was neat to get these ideas and these names from these coaches, and it's just fun.
Sounds good. All right, dude. It's going to wrap it up. We will have a preview episode next week. I'm going to guess we'll record it Monday or Tuesday, whatever works better for Matt. We'll get it in. I'm sure he's going to go out and get drunk the Wednesday before Thanksgiving like everybody else. So I'm
going to rest.
Or that too. That's cool.
Food prep.
Yeah, no doubt. So, all right. For the coach, Matt Leng, I'm EDGYTIM. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. And we'll talk to you next week. It'll be state final preview time. Man, oh man, it just flies by. Thanks, everybody.